Charles Darwin, father and propagator of the theory of evolution. In 1859, he proposed and publicly published his ideas about evolution in his book, The Origin of Species, and with this publication came the skepticism from the scientific community as well as people who supported the idea. His ideas spread quickly as eager and avid readers quickly sought to buy his new book, but this was not the only thing that helped Darwin's ideas spread. Another methodology in which his ideas spread was that of pictures and paintings. His ideas of evolution were expressed in creative ways through a visual culture. This in turn not only appealed to the higher class who most likely read his copy of The Origin of Species, but shifted the target audience to people of lower class who could not read and were able to understand his idea through visual aid. This is how Darwin was made into an authority figure with the help of visual culture, but there's a catch. Most pictures in which Darwin's ideas were expressed were in a sense of mockery of the man himself and were made by critics. Inadvertently, said critics made Darwin more popular and made his ideas more widespread, while trying to make him look ridiculous. This is how Darwin's ideas and theories became well known through the intentional effort to make his ideas look preposterous. When Darwin's ideas were made public, many people thought of him as insane, since he was comparing man to ape. This idea was implausible since the scientific community at the time was centered around the idea of creationism, in the sense that God had created man in his image. So to say that the Bible, the book that was center of the world, was wrong was considered heretical. Darwin himself was one of the only scientists to be represented through cartoons, and at the time cartoons were something to laugh and make fun of. Darwin was represented by an ape-like body with his head on the body, and usually next to him would be an ape. This is a sense to mock Darwin by representing him like that, as well as to insult him. To be compared to an animal is not something someone wants, but as it turns out, this visual representation aided Darwin to spread his ideas to people all over the world. Another picture that mocks and highlights this idea is one in which a worm becomes a man. Darwin is in the center of this picture sitting in a chair with almost a godlike appearance, and around him the cycle of evolution is happening. While misrepresented, it shows a worm slowly developing into an ape, then into a Neanderthal until it reaches the final stage of mankind. The final form is a man who is tipping his hat towards Darwin as if he's paying respects. This picture shows how Darwin's ideas were mocked by the community but were also idolized by certain people. It all depends on how you perceive the picture. You can look at it as ridicule of his ideas and how they are blowing it out of proportion in order to create a funny image, or you can see how it idolizes his ideas as well as admires it, and it shows the respect Darwin deserves for the theory he created. While many of the cartoons created at first glance seem to mock Charles Darwin, there are a select few that had a subliminal message that at first glance is quite difficult to see. One caricature is that of the French artist André Gille called L'homme descend du singe, man descends from ape. In this picture, it shows Darwin, again with the body of an ape, smashing through hoops in what appears to be a circus. At quick glance, it could be argued that this is portraying Darwin as a circus freak due to his outlandish ideas, but there is a deeper hidden message within this picture. The artist wants to create an image of Darwin smashing through the hoops to represent a figurative representation of him smashing through Catholic ignorance, and that rationality now has a fighting chance against the church. This shows not only that his ideas have spread out of his home to France, but there are different ways to interpret his idea. In this case, the ability to fight the church and to let rationale shine through. One more thing to highlight was Darwin's influence on art as well as how women were represented. One of Darwin's theories within evolution was that of sexual selection, which is preference by one sex for certain characteristics that the other sex possessed or that were perceived as either advantageous for future generations to possess or were thought to be appealing to the other sex. One species in particular that highlights this theory was that of peacocks. Male peacocks possess colorful feathers that are used to woo female peacocks into choosing them as their mates. This is represented in a variety of pictures after his theory was published, some in which Darwin was idolizing and admiring a woman due to her select qualities. Again, this caricature mocks Darwin in his ideas, but also effectively spreads them through this humor. Further on, there are drawings and paintings in which women are painted in the background there are peacock feathers. This shows the influence Darwin had on art and how the use of sexual selection was mocked and represented by other people at the time. Charles Darwin is an important and highly respected scientist whose ideas were spread with the help of visual culture. While mocked in many of the pictures, they effectively and widely spread his ideas of evolution as well as other theories within that. Through caricatures and paintings, Darwin was made into a respectable, well-known authority figure that the whole world now knows of.